Hello, good day to you. I am Martin Kagan, presenter for Data Cocoon's Spatial Database Visualization Engine, which is a patented system within Before Your Eyes. We'll be looking at the coronavirus in significant detail today in various formats. I encourage you to look at our prior presentations on the subject matter. This is version 3 or version 4 of these iterations. It is fairly advanced. We're going to be jumping right into it to obtain a better understanding. So within Before Your Eyes, we have the ability to create a visual compendium unlike any other organization currently. That is mainly because we hold a specific series of patterns that allow us to produce the visual images that you're going to be seeing. Our focus of attention today is apply that technological application to another level of technology that was sponsored by Mr. Gates at a significant level of several hundred million to produce an array of data that is going to be critical to us in the next several years regarding the coronavirus, its mutations and growth factors. We've seen enormous amounts of data being presented to us in various formats, and we are expected to understand all of that. As well, within the sponsored organization, they have gone further. Not only are they looking at an array of data items, such as not only deaths, but admissions and ICU and all those other aspects that are critical to the recovery period, they've also projected forward. And not only that, they've used the concept of mean, higher, this is actual up to this point, and thereafter is their projected values at the upper level and the lower level and the mean level. We've taken this entire compendium of data and presented it asynchronously, not only for the United States and every single state, but the countries that are underlying that, which are approximately 29 at this point in time. And we are able to produce visual compendium information that is crystal clear to the finest granular level of data. I'm talking about seeing a single digit within thousands and seeing it clearly. And I can show this to you with great ease. Here is something that we produced several weeks back, the 18th of the 3rd, which had already projected values throughout the world. And these aren't static images. These are data-driven images. And we took that further and we projected it based off the Italian growth and projections, and we got a different set of figures. And we started becoming alarmed with what was going on relative to the potential growth in the United States. We took this one stage further, and within the concept of the USA, we were able to gather some data and apply it to now different concepts, not only to the death aspect or the future characteristics, but other things such as hospitalization, health, and so it's a multi-dimensional, multi-axial concept in and over time. Here is something of a 20th of the scale we're talking about. This is provided by Bloomberg relative to the same data set, but in this data set everything is static. But this tells you the enormity of that data set that you have to and are expected to be able to appreciate in your mind asynchronously right now. Can you tell me what that looks like? Well, if you can't, I can. And that is because we have got it right in front of you. This is every bit of that data, every single bit of the data, whether it be mean, upper, lower, and any one of the several areas. This is the multi-country interpretation of that data. And as you can see, there's data to be seen. But we can go much further than this because we haven't even started applying the full pattern structures. When we look at the data, this is the multi-country, 29 countries, all aspects of that data shown to you clearly, that you can almost reach out and touch the data and understand it and see these are not contortions, these are actual numbers supported by the data itself, which is now assumed to be 100% clear and correct. country by country. There's the United States. In one instance, we can see the predicted time. There's a period and an amount, 1970. I've been tracking this figure in several directions for several days now, and it was the peak represented daily death figure at that point in time. And thereafter, relative to the data, it starts to cascade downwards, which is a good thing. But we can apply that visual on a multiplicity of items and have cross-comparison now and timing comparisons and see where all this ties in relative to the peak and the usage. And we can do this for, as I've mentioned before, 2, 4, 6, 7 variables here. There are 9 total. This represents 7 of those 9. And here is, once again, every country of the 29 countries. Here's the United Kingdom. We are able to see this is new ICUs. We are able to see that data in of itself, but we're going to be looking at that section now in a further level of degree. So here is a three-way comparison between the mean, the upper and the lower, at delta level of change. And we can actually see the sequential nature of that change at every level, and we're able to track it. Here, with our focus still being the 29 country representation of, in this case, admissions at the mean level, we are able to view this data both in terms of a structured observational level and literally move it through time to current time. And in that situation, we are able to look at the data from the clarity of what the data has produced thus far. And here's Italy with a pronounced position, clearly before others. And that correlates one-to-one with the data itself. So let's move that data forward. And this data is the IHME's data, projected over the time periods assigned. And we can see that there are multiple countries still, unfortunately, to reach their zenith point in terms of admissions, which supports the concept within the local US interpretation that there are certain other states that are still to bear the full weight of what this represents proportionately within the United States. So, that being said, relative to this data, what we can see is that the countries move in different time periods relative to the data and the occurrence of admissions. Each country is calculated and tabulated on its own axial point. So we are not looking at one country being larger than another necessarily by the height here. What we're showing is data at the node level relative to the country's own data stream. So for comparative purposes, we can see where they are in their timing and their zenith point or their low point, as we clearly saw with Italy. There's Spain, and just to turn it around is easier for me. And there's Italy, I find. And from the Italian situation, it is clearly earlier than everywhere else, and others are coming later on. Now let's turn our focus to the United States, front and center. And for that, we look at the United States portion of that data, and we are only looking at the death factor over all 50 states relative to 3 classifications of bandwidth, of risk, the lower, the mean, and the upper, as we've been doing previously. And let us take that and see it at a more granular level and choose, essentially, now we've taken those states and putting them separately, they're not into regions. And those regions, there are 9. Let's, for instance, select Mideast. And as the system will select that situation, we will go down and see the data at that level. And with that in place, we're now observing those localities relative to the timing, just as we did on the European countries. And we can see clearly that New York started off earlier and is hopefully set to have a reduction in the occurrences of, in this case, the death occurrence. And this was Pennsylvania that came in slightly after. Once again, these are set at node level, so not by size, but by time positioning of their data. Rhode Island still needs to position itself, and Delaware looks like a position that may not have fully developed. We'll have to see how that constitutes over time. So that gives you an idea of what can be seen at a node level interpretation of the data. Once again, I'm happy to present to you. My name is Martin Kagan. I'm ready to assist in any way possible and to encourage you to look at our websites relative to assisting in the further development of a more advanced, ever advancing concept. I'm happy to present to you. Speak to you soon.